Greetings, Mr. Chair. Mindy Hill with the DCVoice.com. At the present, the FCC doesn't have jurisdiction over video programming that hasn't been shown on television. Will the FCC extend its jurisdiction to digital online streaming, particularly with regulations to closed captioning?
Thank you. I think that's a question you have to ask the next administration.
The journey of the closed caption certification box is one that's very interesting, and I am led to believe that my advocacy efforts in combating a closed captioning defamation, simple technical glitch, shall I say, as the legal counsels would word it, instrumental in implementing this closed caption certification box. I'll say because I hadn't seen it prior. Now, considering President Obama had signed the Communication Video Accessibilities Act, that could have attributed to it, but I'm not certain. Considering Senator Ed Markey had some legislation, and he was down on that chamber floor with his iPad. At that time, I'm not sure that a closed caption certification box on the YouTube platform, that tool was accessible and was there. So I stand firm in my belief that my advocacy efforts to implement regulations for closed captioning as it relates to online streaming sources such as the Google's YouTube platform. Well, I observed that I was cyber attacked. I'll say that. I observed that, and the cyber attack happened via electronic media transfer closed captioning. The voice data was infringed upon. Someone infringed upon my copyright, infringed upon my original sound, and felt a need to alterate the closed captioning. Now, closed captioning is not for anybody to go in and, want to identify someone in derogatory terms. That's not, and make them look ridiculous. That's not why closed captioning only serves one purpose, and that's for the deaf and hard of hearing. Well, I did go before the FCC to even thank them.
Hi, Mindy Hill with the DCVoice.com. And I just have a comment. During the Obama administration, the FCC had no jurisdiction over regulating programming that has not been shown on television, with particularly regarding closed captioning. And Chairman Wheeler stated that your administration would figure out something to, how to implement that. And it looks to be that was correct, that your administration has been instrumental with recognizing online digital streaming sources with particular to closed captioning. And has been very instrumental with implementing the caption certification for online streaming source YouTube. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
To say that, hey, you guys may have probably done something, but I don't think that they really did anything, the FCC. What happened is, all these lawyers were just, I guess, following my pursuit of getting this rectified, and getting this resolved. But meanwhile, all of the tools to actually have the solution, the tools were there. The tools were there. Now, this is the beauty of tools. Tools can either help repair something, assemble, or disassemble. And I just felt that they utilized a tool to try to disassemble my foundation upon this emerging market. that's here to stay. Well, no, because why? I put in a lot of effort into this emerging market with creating original news content. You know, this isn't something that you're going to see on the news. Well, you might see some of it, considering they were inspired by a couple of my shows, so you probably did see it on the news. This is the emerging market, so I understood that this is an emerging market, and because I understood the magnitude of this emerging market was more so, it legitimized my efforts, to mitigate this situation. Well, Congress, sometimes they're very useless. They're very soulless entities, but not when it comes to voting. They find some spirit, to go out there and give those pitches for campaigns when they want votes. But anyway, yeah, I just couldn't believe that they had these tools there and they were not going to utilize them for the proper resolution. Because again, after all, if they would have utilized the tools that were at their disposal, I wouldn't have never had to enter the court of law. But I guess they didn't have, they wanted this proceeding to occur, because it's like, hey, let's see what she knows. And I guess because I use common sense intelligence and I came from a genuine heart space and it wasn't artificial, I guess that's why I was able to stay the course. So my 60 seconds that was granted by Judge Holman turned into over 6 years. Yeah. And Judge Holman did state that my claim that I brought before the court was taxing. My thing is, I don't want to bring any burden upon the taxpayers because I'm a taxpayer myself. So I want to make sure that every dollar spent was going to be the right dollar spent. But guess what? Come to find out, we didn't have to spend any dollars. Why? Because the tools were there. The tools were there. So this kind of is very interesting, considering right now everything is so technology, this, technology that. And technology is a tool. These are tools that are supposed to help more efficient processes, more efficient procedures, less burdensome, but again, if you're not going to use the tool, the people that are creating and developing these tools, if they're not going to utilize the tools for their proper purpose, then I don't think the tools are necessary. It's not necessary if you're not going to utilize the tools for the proper purpose. And Congress had the tools. The FCC had the tools, But anyway, you can see how I presented these questions.
Good morning.
Hi.
Hi, Mindy Hill with the DCVoice.com. Does the FCC plan on extending its jurisdiction beyond news stations to video online streaming companies?
Sorry, does it extend jurisdiction to online video sources with respect to closed captioning?
Yes.
That's an issue that we haven't taken a look at in the last week. I will have to get back to you, I'm afraid, on the answer. I can't make a comment at this time. I'm sorry.
So I will say that, my efforts were very instrumental with implementing this, getting this done. Despite, everything that I went through, all of the abuse, the torture, oh gosh, I came out redefined, rebooted, recharged, and ready to stand on my foundation that I built. You know, a lot of people will say, oh, well, you didn't win any money. Well, guess what? Sometimes it's best to win when you have literature, you know. Like Shakespeare, you know, literature such as Shakespeare. So that Communication Video Accessibility Act that President Barack Obama signed into law that didn't have any cases to associate, now Hill versus Google can go, guess what, right underneath, because that's a great case to complement that law, since, again, the tools are already there. So I'll say, yes, I am a winner. I'm a big winner. Why? Because I don't know anybody outside of myself that has any case law against the biggest technology company in the world that deals with closed captioning. I mean, when it comes to Google, I'm not talking about Netflix, you know, specifically closed captioning. So, yeah, I'm a winner there. I'm a winner because guess what? You won't be able to ever talk technology without having to go back and reflect on Hill versus Google. You know, I mean, that's something I'll be able to share with my kids. You know, all of my family is aware, you know, of the case, things of that nature. But yeah, and I mean, the case went all the way to the United States Supreme Court. So in that, that's a win. That's a win. Because it's like 1 in 100 million is the ratio to where the United States Supreme Court will hear a case. So just for them to even accept the case, to hear the case, even though they denied it, it's okay. But the district court in Virginia, when I brought forth the case against the FCC, because again, the FCC had the tools. They had the tools to do something. The judge there found that the case was very legitimate. The case would have stood. The only thing that happened is the statute of limitation. So I say all of this to say, never give up. And when you know, when you are genuine about a tool being held accountable for trying to disassemble a foundation that didn't need any repairs, stand on it. Stand firm in your belief and stand on business, you know? Stand on business, because you'll be surprised at the outcome. I mean, I have case law. I have case law. That's like the genius thing. You know, yes, I did go to mediation, but what they wanted to offer me was crumbs. And I wasn't going to eat that. No. So I settled for, guess what? Having great case law. And I wrote my first brief in appendix. I don't know anyone else, even family that are attorneys, lawyers, judges, they haven't even did that. So, you know, I'm one of a kind of me. I'm an original, you know. So with that being an original, I appreciate this journey, and especially the outcome for the journey of the closed caption certification box on the YouTube platform. So again, these tools, we have access to all of these tools, but we just have to remember the people that develop the tools, make sure that they are developing the tool for a proper use and not to harm, to cause harm. Because still to this day, that was in 2016, it's 2026. Wow, that'll be 10 years this year. It's been a decade. And you know, the caption still isn't fixed, still isn't corrected. But they went in to infringe upon my copyright, my original sound, and to defame me, you know. So despite YouTube always sending out a copyright notice for this and a copyright notice, they didn't want to accept accountability and recognize them infringing upon my copyright by altering the HTML code, you know. And I will say, you know, I was just able to bear witness to procedures and how they go and how they operate. And some judges pay to play, some don't. Some will allow court records to be altered and some won't. So again, the journey of this closed caption certification box has been one for the record books, you know, and I appreciate standing on business, and I have, you know, my case law to stand on. So, you know, students that'll be in college going over cases and things like that, guess what? They can always pull Hill versus Google and, you know, see the lack of common sense and the artificial intelligence of the Below the Barbarians legal counsel for Google. And just so happened, before I close, one of the legal counsels was the Obama's one that worked for Obama. He was a part of the My Brother's Keeper program, so I guess he was going to uphold his brother's promise to not allow these tools to be implemented and utilized to resolve this matter. You know, and the matter could have been resolved before I entered into the courts, before I had to go to the law office where the decoy Roy was and be barred. You know, I was barred from the law office. It's great. It was a great experience. I'm just very thankful that, you know, my mind was in the right place. My mind, my soul, my spirit. I wasn't a soulless entity. You know, I'm human, and it was a human experience. It wasn't an artificial experience, despite, you know, the use of artificial intelligence and how they like to utilize these tools. So I hope that this encourages you to pay more attention to the tools that are being utilized and for people, you know, that are being introduced, shall I say, the tools that are being introduced for people to use. Let's ensure that these tools are really ready to, you know, uphold the foundations and not disassemble foundations, especially on the emerging market, you know? Yeah, I understood the assignment. It was an emerging market. And I was a contender in the emerging market. I mean, I still am, but just in a different capacity, you know? So every time you log in to your YouTube account and you upload a video, just know that Mindy Hill was very instrumental in getting that closed caption certification box implemented. And in closing, this is America. This is my home. I didn't migrate here. I didn't arrive on a slave ship. So it was up to me to let these bad actors know that America is my home. And before you ever thought you would kick me out of my home, you would be, you know, out. And that's without ICE having to find you. You know, you were going to be out. So yeah, this is my home, America. I'm an American, original. Yeah, original, copper, you know, original. Yeah, and I stand on business here. That American spirit is alive, you know. And it runs through my veins, that American spirit. And so I stood my square, and very successful, and I'm a winner because of that, you know. I even went all the way to the United States Supreme Court. So, and they actually heard the case, you know, and that's a 1 in 100 million ratio. So, yeah. That's a winner. That's a winner. And to come out with your own case law, that's genius. Well, I hope you enjoyed this journey. because it definitely has been a journey. But be sure to pick up my books, Shattered Glass on the 8th Floor, a digital media pioneer's memoir, along with Let's Get Right to It, Creating the Lane in This Digital Game. And what's interesting is you won't find anything about the journey of this closed caption certification box in there. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much.